Hello, everyone. Welcome to Keith and Glory.
We're Not Sorry, your new favorite podcast where two lifelong best friends bring you lighthearted banter on all things pop culture, fashion, music, and everything in between. With 30 years of friendship under our belts, we're diving into hot topics, real life stories, and playful debates. And we want to bring you along for the ride. Welcome back, everybody. Hi, Glory.
Hi, Keith. How are you?
Good. I see a different little background for you.
I am not in my regular podcast location. I'm in Santa Cruz, California this week.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been nice. Like saw some seals, saw some surfers, all the redwood trees, which are kind of cool.
Oh,
Santa
that's
Cruz has got a cool
nice.
vibe. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Yep, and I'm in Thunder Bay taking an extended spring break just to, be with my family at this time, and,
Ooh.
so I'm back in my parents' basement.
That yellow like wall behind you just really goes good with your complexion.
Do you think?
Mhm.
I was thinking once again, I'm a little shiny. I'm still waiting for my Jan Marina.
I think we need to invest in some good powder tips for you.
I think so. So today we have a little bit of a different episode. We've had, a bunch of viewers, asking questions, kind of about, coming out, and we got a really powerful email today from someone through our Buzzsprout, just talking about how Educate the Straight is kind of helping them talk to their gay son, and it was just a really nice positive message, and it was just like, and seeing as we had planned this episode many times, I think we're going to talk about the coming out episode.
This is the coming out episode. Yeah. And I just want to commend your bravery because I know this is super vulnerable. And I also just want to tell our listeners this may feel a little heavier this episode because we're talking about some deep stuff, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully you'll still enjoy. I think we still have some laughs along the way. But
Oh,
yeah, I think people
there'll be
are.
laughs. Don't you worry, little geek Keith.
Yeah, but I definitely think people wanna hear it, and I'm interested. I mean, I was there, so I know the story, but I do definitely think people really wanna hear about it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of
and
fun
I think,
today.
of course, super important in this climate of the world today, and for any of our parents listening that are struggling to communicate with their children about this kind of things of this nature, super important because being a young person today is not easy.
Mhm.
Um, we know suicide is the second leading cause of death among all young people aged 10 to 14, and the third leading cause of death 15 to 24-year-olds. Now, of course, in the LGBTQ plus, young people are four more times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers. The Trevor Project estimates that more than 1.8 million LGBTQ plus young people ages 13 to 24 seriously consider suicide each year, and at least one attempts suicide every 45 seconds.
It's so sad. It's just
Heartbreaking.
incredible the amount of pressure our kids are under these days, and even, like to your point, this community even faces it even more. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's get into it.
Of course, anyone looking to speak to anybody, um, to donate, just to research, find some facts. The great organizations to look at are, of course, PFLAG, the Trevor Project, the Human Rights Campaign, but I mean, there's millions of others out there that you can do. So, yes, so when I was young, I was born in 1977, so I grew up in the 80s. I knew at a young age that I was gay. Thanks to Bo on Dukes of Hazzard, that blonde number.
Was he your first crush?
He was definitely my first crush,
Okay.
from Dukes of Hazzard, and, I knew I was different, and I didn't really understand why. I didn't
Yeah.
understand the gay thing. I knew I had to hide some interests that I had that weren't
Yeah.
socially acceptable for boys and stuff like that. I remember a funny story when, we had a big family gathering, and all the boys are playing road hockey out in the street, and I'm in a room with all my younger girl cousins playing Young and the Restless and teaching them how to smoke pencils.
That sounds on brand for
But
you.
especially, but I remember at that age, someone coming in being like, "Why aren't you outside with all the boys playing hockey?" And I remember feeling shame because of that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, but I knew, and it was confusing, you know.
Mhm.
Um, it was funny. Another funny story about being gay. I was obsessed with wrestling as a kid, and not why you would think, but
Did you think they were cute too?
no, I'm sure I liked a few, but no, I was just a huge wrestling fan. Um, and I had the ring and I had all the figures and stuff. And
Mhm.
then I got Elizabeth, who was Macho Man Randy Savage's manager. Is it called a
She
manager
came
in
out as a
wrestling?
doll? She had a doll?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
she was
okay.
something, Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
Big, huge love triangle between Macho Man, George the Animal Steel, and Elizabeth.
Okay.
But, as soon as I got Elizabeth, well, I made this big cardboard box into, like, her mansion, and I set all the the wrestlers as security outside her mansion.
It was
Like,
all about Elizabeth from then on.
that's right. Now, growing up in the '80s was, of course, the breaking of AIDS. So as I was coming into my sexuality and realizing, yes, I was gay, all over the news and all over everywhere was called gay cancer at first.
Wow.
Was killing gay people, for being gay, it was just killing gay people. And I've watched so many different documentaries and stuff about that time and the amount of amazing artists and singers and dancers and Broadway people that were lost during that time, I feel like the world would be a completely different place today if that never happened. But that was another kind of added to the shame of being gay, right?
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, shoot, well, I'm going to die because I'm gay,
Yeah.
and so I was scared then, but
I also
and
have to say, like, even thinking, like, growing up and you'll probably get into this, but where we grew up was so small and isolated, like, it's not like a bigger city where it might have been a little more accepted, right?
that's right, and kind of the gay people that I heard about as I was growing up were gay people that were ostracized from their families and moved to
And moved away.
Toronto and,
Yeah. Mhm.
or were the weird people and you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I saw. And when I was younger, kids started to notice that I was maybe a little different. I always hung out with the girls and,
Mhm.
did my
Yep.
thing. And, one girl I remember always used to call me Fifi. I still don't know what it was, but it was like a gay slur. And I just had to throw that in there because I am friends with her on Facebook and I love watching her son figure skate on Facebook
Ah!
all the time. Oh, like
Came
gay
full
club.
circle. Okay. Yep.
Another term that kind of still gets to me, and like, I mean, you can call me any gay slur in the world, but when I was younger, I was called a fairy. And that,
Mm.
I don't know. And it still to this day bugs me. I don't know why. But you know, another funny story to get back there, and I'm sure I've told you this story, Glory, but we were at someone's birthday party at a roller skating rink in grade 5. And when I was a kid, I had really long, beautiful eyelashes. Like sometimes I'd be at the ski hill.
You've been bragging about your eyes and your eyelashes since I met you, like your baby blues.
Okay. Okay.
For those
And
of you on
but it was
YouTube
to the point
too.
where, like, sometimes I'd be skiing and, you'd wear a neck tube and a toque and with my lashes, and people would be like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And I'd be like,
Oh.
I'm a boy." And I guess there was a rumor going around my Sherbrooke school in grade 5 that I wore mascara because my eyelashes were so long.
Mm.
So I was at the roller skating rink, and then I heard this song over the intercom, and it said, "This song goes out to Keith Madge." And I'm like, "Okay." Getting my well, doesn't "Dude Looks Like a Lady" come on?
No. Aw, poor
Eh,
little Keith.
I mean, now it's hilarious, but, like,
At the
I'm sure
time, you were
a lot
mortified.
of people do carry trauma like that with them, but luckily, I've always been kinda someone that had a lot of confidence, thank God. But I went home that night and I cut
All your
my eyelashes
eyelashes.
off. So I woke up the next morning and I was at breakfast. My mom just thought I was really tired because I didn't know your eyelashes really open up your eyes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But then I came home after school and my eyes were still a little like pie-eyed, like closed. And then my mom was like, "What happened?" Like, luckily, my beautiful lashes grew back. But little did my mom know she'd be looking at those kind of pie-eyed for a few more years. Just kidding.
But, that must have stuck with you for you to be talking about it this long later, like, it obviously affected you, like, that's the kinda it was traumatic for you.
Well, and I mean, it's a funny story, and I've been telling it as that for years. But, it was hard growing up, and when people did, like, start to notice and you were different, call you out on it and stuff,
Mhm.
I was in grade 6 or 7, and I became friends with, people that were older than me at a junior high, kinda like the bad group of people, and people were making fun of me at my school, and these people all came over after school and were like, "Don't mess with Keith Madge," like, but in, I don't know, tough
Mhm.
grade 8 language. And it was funny because it was at that time that I learned, oh, okay. Like I learned a coping strategy and survival skill right then
Yeah.
that I needed to be friends with hot girls.
Mhm.
So the bad guys wanted to be my friends and
Mhm.
because they wanted to date all my girlfriends.
Yeah, and the amount of people men I've told off for you because they when before you
Right?
came out, like, was I remember marching up to people, "He is not gay, how dare you ask that, da, 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 da," like,
Right,
I
and
came to your
even though you
defense.
knew, but it's just so important for a gay person to have their time to come out.
Right.
It's no one's business, it's no pressure of anybody else, it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Um, and growing up, I tried to spread many straight rumors about myself.
He even dabbled in some straight rumors of himself, yeah.
Just just to get the lead off my tail, but even in pop culture, gay people that were represented were kind of those queenie, kind of flamboyant, very gay people that were on television at that time.
Yeah.
I remember watching Survivor, and it was the first season in 2000, even. I think that was the year. And Richard Hatch was on it. And I was watching it with someone, and they were saying, "Oh, there's so many gay people on this show." And I'm just thinking, there's one.
You came
Like,
out by 2000 though, right? You were already out of the closet by 2000. I think so. I remember that New Year's. You were already out.
oh, yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Okay, so
Mhm.
maybe it was earlier than that. But other positive representation for me, of course, was Will and Grace, and when that came out.
Yes.
That did wonders for the gay community being accepted into the mainstream.
Mhm.
They found the humor and they found, of course, the girl and the guys. Remember, we were always called Jack and Karen.
Well, I was gonna say, people would be like, "You guys are like Will and Grace," and be like, more like Jack and Karen." Like, let's be real.
And we totally were like,
Yeah.
denied, denied, approved. Um, but yeah, growing up as a teen, of course, when you're exploring your sexuality, it's a different time. And during that time, a lot of younger gay boys go to experiment. And I assume now they're all over these websites and stuff. And it's a very dangerous situation to be in. I remember in high school, people threatening to out me.
Mhm.
And I remember these kids. Like, well, I can call them kids now because we were in grade 10, but came up my driveway and they said, we're going to tell all your friends about you. And were telling me off. And they took my parents' hose and sprayed me with my hose in my parents' driveway. Like, what the hell?
I don't mean to laugh, that sounds horrible, but
I mean, yeah, we laugh now, but yeah, it was like I was always scared that it was going to come out.
yeah.
It was the secret that really everybody knew, but it was the biggest secret that it was going to come out. And
Can I ask you, did you have anyone to talk to about it like, at that time, like your sister or anyone, like,
no,
internal?
even though my sister was always like super supportive and she would always talk about being friends with gay men or like, talk
Yeah.
about George Michael and things like that, I could tell like
She
in
was trying to ease
support
the
of.
conversation, but, like, you just never had that one person to so I just can't, like, I just can't even imagine how holding such a big secret like that in for so long and not having one person to talk to about it. It's
Mhm,
just
and
crazy. Yeah.
thinking, if it gets out, well,
Your
everything
life
goes
will
to
be
hell.
over. Right. Yeah. Mhm.
Mhm, and, and then, of course, I think I would have anyway, but of course, hiding a secret like that, you go in and being ADHD and all those other things and just being like a party boy. Of course, I got into the party scene as a lot of like young gay men do. And of
Mhm.
course, that comes with that. Like addiction is not that I was an addict or anything, but addiction is a very prevalent thing in the gay scene. And I think it's because of not being okay with yourself. There's just so much shame attached to that lifestyle at that age.
Mhm.
And that's a reason why a lot of gay men live out their high school lives in their 20s and 30s because they don't get the chance to actually go through like your first crush, your first kiss, your first heartbreak, your first everything. So gay men do that a lot later in life just because of the options available and the confidence in being yourself and being okay with it. I think gay friends, finding your tribe, finding your community helps out a lot. I had a really instrumental person in my gay confidence, and that was Russell Paxton, of course, who's no longer with us. But Russell was one who I always wished I was like him. He had such confidence about being gay. He didn't care. He lived his life and had so much fun doing it. And I was just always like, oh my God, I wish I could have that. And luckily, by hanging out together and experiencing life together, I did get that confidence. And I think he was a big part of that. So I think a lot of times gay people have need to find their tribe to find their confidence in who they're
Community.
becoming
Yeah,
as
their sense of
individuals.
community, their safe space, where they can be their authentic self, maybe initially until you get more confidence. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think Russell was that for you. And that was a huge loss in your life, but he definitely brought you. I mean, you guys started vacationing at Gay Resort. You guys started like doing all the things.
Doing all the things, and he was so positive, and nobody lived life like Russell. So cheers to Russell.
Cheers to Russell. Oh, I'm glad we did that. Can I ask you, like, you may not know, but like, what about lesbians or trans people? Like, I can imagine that even being, well, I don't know. Is it the same? Is that sort of the
I
same
don't know. I can
culture?
speak from my experience,
Yeah.
but I would imagine, I mean, being trans and being stuck in another body would be a whole other
Right.
traumatic experience that kids have to deal with. That's just unfortunate, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted
No,
to.
please
Yeah.
interrupt. I'm sure the listeners want to hear your voice every now and then. Wake them up.
There's a lot of kiki this episode.
Um, so yes, I had a lot of support from my friends, even though I was hiding this deep, dark secret. And then I didn't really get a chance to come out. I was outed.
Mhm.
And then I, of course, wanted to kind of try to get ahead of that, and tried to go ahead and tell everybody and stuff. Of course, this was in my early 20s, 19 to 20.
I think you were nine. Well, you were a couple years older than me, so yeah,
Yeah,
you were
so
probably
2020.
20. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get ahead of that. And of course, I was always a big person of make fun of myself first before anybody else could, da 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 da. So when it was revealed and I started coming out to people, I came out to all my friends first. And
Came out
all,
to me first. I would
yeah.
never forget this day as long as I live.
And I can't really remember it. So do tell.
So I was bartending in the local bar in Thunder Bay, and I remember it was like it hadn't opened yet because it was like really, really quiet. And you had come in early and you were just bawling. And I just remember looking at you going, "What's wrong?" And obviously had been outed. I don't know if you want to elaborate there, but you were like unwinding about like, what does this mean? And, and you just looked at me and you're like, I have something to tell you. And I just remember telling you, you don't have to say it. And you never said it to me. And that was
Yeah.
it. And you're like, yeah, like I didn't
And
need
that's
you to
such a
say it.
great thing to say
Yeah.
because it was so hard to say
hmm
those words.
And I didn't need you to. I just was waiting for you to be comfortable in a space to where now I'm going to cry.
I know me
Um,
too.
to where you felt comfortable in your own skin to admit it, and I was gonna defend you till the day you were ready.
Right.
Like, I had
You
your
were
back,
fanning out the
okay?
flames saying,
I
"He is
had your back.
nobody."
Yeah, I had your back, but I was proud of you for coming out and, like, again, you're living your authentic self, and that is what everyone should be able to do.
Yeah. And, I think that is absolutely perfect, Glory, what you said and what you did in that moment. I think everybody should take note of that because it is a hard thing to say. And I think that
Yeah.
letter we got today from Buzzsprout, the mom said that she said, "You don't even have to say the words." And I think she said in the email, tears are up just even writing about it now. But because the words are hard to say. I remember being young, like, I don't know, grade 5, grade 6, and whispering it to my dog as the first time saying it out
Oh.
loud, and it just being so, I don't know, a big deal.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was so weird.
I think it's like another important thing. It's your story to tell, right? So, like, when you were coming out, like, even when you did, like, I wasn't going around, oh, guess what? Keith's come out. Like, it was your story. Your, you share it with who you feel comfortable sharing it with
Mhm.
in your own terms, right? I think that's a really important
Love that, and
thing.
for
Yeah.
educate the straight at the end of this episode, I have, like, the top 10 things if you're considering talking to a loved one about this, and you are hitting everyone right on the
Oh,
head there,
well,
Glory, so, like, give it up for the Ally of the Year
I
award to
am.
Glory
Well, I am a
Amanda
big ally
Jewett,
of Legitimaqua?
the
Legitimaqua. I still
Legitimiqua.
can't say it.
So yes, there was a lot of shame attached to this lifestyle. I came out to my family last, of
Yeah,
course, and I came out to my family by writing a letter. Well, I mean, my sister and I talked about it, but once again, she found out after all my friends,
yeah.
even though the support. And then through my parents, I wrote a letter saying, this is the reason for some of these things that have happened in my life,
Mhm.
explaining it, and left. It was on my laptop and just passed on my laptop. And after doing tech support with them and their iPads today, I'm really surprised they could figure out to keep that
They could
laptop
open it.
up and running.
Oh, we do
But
that with Eric's mom. God love you, Nikki, but she needs constant tech support.
oh god, I feel like I was working at the Apple Genius bar this morning. And and my parents were more than accepting, more than supportive. My dad
Which is
said,
amazing.
"Do your friends know? Does everyone know?" He's like, "Well, then the battle's won. You did it." And my mom was like, "Are you sure?"
Right.
Because she was like, I think there's a few things that parents have to go through when their child comes out. One is the fear of the lifestyle they're going to lead, especially my parents from my generation. They thought it might be a very lonely lifestyle where I would be, you know, um, ridiculed and made fun of for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
luckily that never happened to me and I wasn't really bullied, but
Right.
we'll get back to that. And then they said, the parent no, they didn't say, but parents also have to go through a bit of a grieving process, and that
Yeah.
sounds sad, but it kind of is because, when I was the baby boy Keith, they pictured,
Yeah.
just the
The
typical lifestyle of
the
marrying.
marriage, the kids, all the
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
you have to kind of grieve that lifestyle that you pictured for your child, so it's hard for parents too, it's very hard,
Mhm.
and, yeah, so there's that, and, you know moving away to Calgary and, being, immersed in kind of gay culture a little bit more, and as it got
Mhm.
more acceptable, um, you know, I really embraced my true authentic self,
Mhm.
where I kind of let go of the shackles of what people thought of me. I
Yeah.
didn't care anymore because I had carried that burden for so long. So I gave 0 Fs, as the kids would say,
Yeah,
like,
and tell me how that felt. Like, tell me about, like, how liberating that felt.
well, and people talk about, like, coming out as a big experience like that and, like, liberating, but I don't know. I didn't quite feel that, like, letting the big secret go, because there still had during that time, I still kind of cared what
Yeah,
people thought, and at that time, you also had to come out to everyone that you met almost.
right.
So
And do you
even mo
still?
No, I don't, because I hope it's kind of obvious, and I mean, I talk about it openly and,
Right. Yeah,
but, going to Calgary and meeting new friends, when I'd come out to them,
yeah,
new job, I had to come out, like, even at my job, I waited, 6 months, and I mean, people probably knew,
right.
but, I was working at a
But again, it's back to this is your story on your terms to tell, and, like, I
yeah,
think
and
it's
that's
so
so
important.
important.
Yeah,
So yeah, once I did kind of feel a little bit liberated. Of course, I was still kind of in the party scene and having a lot of fun. But I remember once I was like, for one, this I would just want to say the support from my friends and family was unwavering, and I couldn't have expected anything more. I had maybe one or two incidents of people saying something, and I had not cared so much then that it
yeah,
didn't bother me. But there are people that hold on to those things that people say as kids and everything. But I remember being at a bar in Calgary and, with a bunch of friends, and then I was about to go into the bathroom, and one of our friends stops us. He's like, "Oh, Keith, like, I wouldn't go in there if I was you." And I was like, "Why?" And then, I mean, like, you know me, you don't tell me not to do something. So I
yeah.
walk right in the bathroom and I go in the stall, and as I'm kind of in the stall, I hear these 2 guys at the urinal talking about me. "That fag, that blah, 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 so I
They
don't
were
know.
friends of ours or friends of yours?
Kind of,
Acquaintances?
friends of friends,
Mhm,
from
m'kay.
that night, and then I just walked out of the stall, and they just kinda looked at me like, and I was like, "Do you know what? If you actually knew me and got to know me and we talked, you would probably think I was the funniest guy you've ever met in your life." You
Right.
probably thought, and I just kind of told them off like that, and then they bought me drinks for the rest of the night, and,
I'm
and I
sure.
saw them out, but I mean,
I feel like you've always like, you are the funniest guy, and you've led a lot, I think, through your life with humor. I think that softens the ice for you. It's something you lead
totally.
with, and, people gravitate towards you because you are so funny, right? But, like, I think that's something you've let even through those times. I remember when you first started making your first, like, gay friend group in Calgary, like, I was so proud of you. I was like, "Okay, go to the gay bars, go out with the gays." Like,
Yeah,
you would have, like, your gay dinner parties and whatever. But you
and
didn't really have that before, so I was, like, excited you were kind of getting into that culture and,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now, like, it's crazy, even where I live, we're in a city of, I think, 1.5 million people, but there's one gay bar there now. Just one gay bar, and everyone's like,
Mm.
"Well, that's kind of weird," and to tell you the truth, gay bars now are places for bachelorette parties and, like, straight girls to feel safe.
Oh, really?
I mean, kind of. A lot of straight bachelorette girls that woo at a gay bar.
No swinging Richards in Atlanta, huh?
No. But, But, and it's funny because I was talking to gay people about that, and they said, "Well, it's because we don't really need it anymore. We can go wherever we want, and we could hold that person's hand, and we could kiss that
Love
person
that.
in
I
public."
love
And
that.
so it's not that needed to have, while it's still so great to have these queer spaces,
Mhm.
and why a lot of females feel safe going to these queer spaces. I think it's important that they make everyone feel comfortable going to everyone's space, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. So there's this bar in Atlanta. We went there for a girlfriend's birthday a few months ago, and it's called Claremont's. It's like this old school. It's been around forever. People probably know it if they're from Atlanta. But Keith, what it was like, first of all, the best people watching I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was anything goes. Like, this girl comes up, she's like this super famous stripper, I guess, crushing, like, beer cans off of her boobs and, like,
Okay.
not, like, a typical what you would expect to see, but it was straights, it was gays, it was, anything went, and
Yeah,
I really left that night going, "What a cool world where everyone can coexist in a place like that. Everyone's
yeah,
having a good time, everyone's dancing." You had, like, real preppy men to, like, all walks of earth, right? Like, it was just, like it was just such an
I
eclectic
love
crowd.
that.
Yeah, so next time you come down, we should go. It
Oh,
was
for
really
sure,
cool.
it sounds
Yeah.
fun.
Anyway.
Um, yeah, no, I think that, me finally embracing my authentic self and being okay with it and not putting too much thought into what other people think really helped shape the man I am today and the confidence that I have.
Mhm.
And I got a tattoo years ago that says forever, and inside the forever it says be yourself.
I love that.
And I think that's important, that no matter what yourself is, whether you're, you know, legitimaquah, or whether or whether unfortunately you're straight. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I just
But even it translates into all things. Like, I talk about it in my book about being once I started being my authentic self career-wise, my career took off. So, like, I think it translates into all aspects of your life, and it's super important. I have a question for you. If you
yeah.
could tell your younger Keith self something in this realm, like, what would it be?
Well, I would hate to be so cliche, but I mean the campaign says it says it's right, where I would say it gets better.
Yeah.
I think gay people growing up feel so isolated,
Mhm.
and it takes some time for some to find their tribe. But
Mhm.
when they do, I think everybody just blossoms, and it's all at their own time. Like, luckily, I was always surrounded by a good group of friends.
Mhm.
I never felt bullied or anything. I think, of course, I was probably too yappy and getting in people's faces too. So, and I had a lot of backup. So,
And, like, can we talk about that? Like, I remember you dating girls at one point, like,
well, like I said, I was just
it's
trying to spread
different.
straight rumors about
And were you
myself.
grossed out? Like, was it like, "Oh, I hate this,"
Well,
or
I just knew, and I mean, like, when I was younger, that's why I think it's important that everybody knows that this isn't a choice. It's nothing that, you wouldn't want to choose to be transgender right now in
no.
America. That's something that it's not a choice. So if I could have not been gay and I could have made that choice when I was younger, I think I probably would have made the choice to be
Yeah, it's an
straight.
easier road to row, right? Because it's our society. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So, I think it's
And
so
lots of
important people
times
know
as a
that.
kid, I remember looking at it as a curse and like, why me? Why me?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
asking, like really
But I think
struggling with that.
listeners, like, I think it's just so important. Like, I think the gay community it's progressed to your point so far now, but I do think I worry about, like, the trans communities and these other
Mhm.
communities that haven't progressed so far. It's super controversial, I get it, but it's the same thing. I guess people listening, listen with an open intent heart. People don't choose to this isn't an easy road to row for people,
No,
you know?
no.
And,
And you're right, you can't choose it, and until you experience it or someone that you
you
love
know?
experiences it, it's hard for some people to accept, unfortunately.
I totally agree, and have empathy for it, right? Like, imagine
Mhm.
it's your children.
Yeah.
That's what I say to people a lot, like, think about if that was
Imagine
your
that's
child.
your child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, well, that was really deep. Thank you for
Well,
sharing, Keith.
yeah. And now, for my Educate the Straight, I have some advice for allies that I think is really important for parents. I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there that well, I mean, a lot of my friends that are parents call me and they're like, I'm sure Johnny's gay. He did this today. And like we laugh. I'm like, oh, unfortunately, I think Johnny's straight, but he just was dancing weird today, or, like they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
laugh. But, it's very important, I think, for young gay people to feel, the approachability of others and be comfortable to talk to.
Yeah,
And, also, so here's my top 10 things of advice, for if you would like to talk to somebody gay, bisexual, transgender, anything of that nature. The first thing is to just listen and validate. Nod. You don't want to look grossed out. You want to pay close attention to what they're saying. Make sure you acknowledge their feelings and emotions and let them know you support them. That's a main thing there. Another thing is you want to affirm their identity. You want to show them that you accept them and respect them for who they are.
yeah,
I think a lot of times, kids, especially with their parents, feel that they won't be accepted anymore. They won't be loved anymore. They might be ostracized, kicked out in some cases.
yeah.
So I think it's very important to affirm their identity and reassure them that this identity, the sexual identity, does not change how you feel about them. Another thing is to respect privacy. It's a very awkward conversation for kids to have with their parents about sexuality at all, let alone if it's a different kind of sexuality and you want to talk to them about that. Now, I know you and your mom are very open and honest with each other, but that is very rare because I'm always quite shocked when I'm like, oh, you told your mom that? Most people
I
don't
have a
have
great
Dolly Mama.
open relationship with all my
You
parents.
really do. I was like, my God. Um, Another thing is to avoid judgment. You don't want to make assumptions, offer unsolicited opinions, change their perspective. You don't want to say, "Oh, you'll change your mind," or "It's a
Yeah,
phase,"
it's a
or
phase, yeah.
even "I always knew." You just kind of want to respect their privacy, avoid judgment, and another important thing is to reaffirm their relationship. Um,
Just on that note, like, the perception, like, people change, like, even just thinking about, like, the trans community, I know I've taken some courses, through work that the reason that if there is someone that is transitioning back, primarily, it's because life on that side was too hard socially, right? Like, they
mhm,
the criticism, the hate, the whatever it is was so unbearable that a lot of these people transition back because it's just easier to conform, which is so horrible, right? Like, it's so sad. And so I
mhm.
guess to your kind of point, like, people coming out, like, if they've thought about, this isn't a typically a phase, right? This is something
It
they've
isn't,
lived
yeah.
and felt, yeah, your whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, and you struggled with and was your biggest secret, and it's you alone with this.
Mhm.
Sorry, I have a few more things. You wanna make sure you're patient. You don't want to say, "Is there anything you wanna say to me? Is there anything you wanna tell me?" But, before
Yeah.
you wanna make sure they're comfortable. You wanna educate yourself. You wanna
Yeah.
make sure you can do some, research just so and great research is this podcast, Educate the Straight. But also, of course, the Trevor Project, Planned Parenthood, all of those have great information on legitimate topics, can provide guidance for parents or any allies of any kind.
Mhm.
Another thing is to refrain from talking about them. That's and as you said before, Glory, that is their story. That's their story to tell.
Yeah.
So, grandparents and aunts, they're gonna have to come out to all these people. And it's really important that you let them do that by refrain from talking about them. Um, Two more. One thing is to be a safe space. Really remember what you say is heard from your children. So, a lot of children take on their parents' views and ideals, morals,
Mhm.
and what you say, if you are against that and you have a child that could be struggling with that, can be a very awful situation for that child and for
Mhm.
the whole family.
Mhm.
And you just want to make sure your kids, and so many parents are great at this now, especially, just that they can share their feelings without fear of judgment, negativity, anything like that. And I think the most important thing is remember the person. As I said, their sexual identity is just that one piece of them. They're not changing as a person. Make sure that you tell them that I know you're still the same person. I love you regardless of your new identity. Don't treat them any differently and just kind of move on. Now, all the things I said today, of course, is some are through personal experience, and some of this advice won't work for everyone in all situations. That's why, of course, please resort. We're going to link below this episode the Trevor Project, Planned Parenthood, the Human Rights Campaign, and a few other websites if you're looking for any information about this. And of course, not that any kids listen to our podcast or anything, but there is the Kids Help Phone in Canada and America, I believe, that is working around the clock and helping, and it provides a safe space for kids to reach out if you're dealing with anything like this at all.
I love that. And just to close, I actually do, I'm encouraged because even just watching my daughter and in her generation, kids are so much more open. They don't really care. Like
No-
gender identity, it's fluid, it's all
Yeah,
this, that, they're all the things. I think they're all just trying to figure it out. But the conversation is so much easier, I think, to have now at that age. I think it's us actually in our generation and older that are struggling with it.
yeah,
Do you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
And I remember seeing the turning point being a teacher where, you teach sexual health
Yeah.
in class. And I remember, questions about gays and stuff at first, like we're getting Snickers and stuff. And I remember the exact time, and I won't say this kid's name, but I remember this kid exactly, kind of the cool hockey kid. And someone asked about, we were talking about different families.
Yeah.
And he's like, puts up his hand. He's like, yeah, it just means they're gay. The two guys love each other. And I was just kind of blown
Yeah, like,
back
it's
because,
not a big deal anymore, and it's super out there. I think social media might if one positive thing of social media, maybe that's helped, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. It's a little bit of a different. We had some laughs in there, of course.
I thought we don't get any diaries today?
No, because I thought I would share those funny younger stories instead of a journal today. I had a few and I was just like, they were more, it just didn't feel right today.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your vulnerability and putting yourself out there, Keith, because I know, even though you're out, I mean, it's still vulnerable to put yourself out there like that. So thank you.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone listening maybe got something out of this podcast. And it's certainly an interesting journey. And I'm proud of you for living your authentic self and couldn't be happier for you.
Thanks, Glory. And yeah, I just hope this episode can maybe reach one parent out there and maybe change their view and help their child become successful and confident within themselves at a young age. Like, as I said, many people are not as lucky as me to have such a supportive family and
Yeah,
friends surrounding them. So, that's why I hit up those hard facts at the beginning of the episode, because I think that's very important to know. And I think it's very important for people to think in their minds before you cast any judgment on anyone.
agreed. Well, we'll get back to your diaries next week.
Next week, a whole new
Yeah.
episode. We're going back to
Okay.
the fun, kids. Don't you
Okay.
worry.
Yeah. This one's a little heavy.
Please, if anybody reaches out to us about any of this, of course, we will help answer any questions or help lead you in the right direction anyway. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, Keith.
You too, Glory.
Okay. Bye.